I can't sit, I can't stay on the ground long, like I can't sit down there, like, and like having to be like in like weird positions. So it's just that it was affecting everyday life like that. And I found myself just going to bed to lay out. And then also knowing that laying down in bed isn't also good. Like you get different pains from being like, cramped up. So it was like this conundrum of like, I can't find relief.
First of all, man, I just want to say thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Sure.
Yeah, so why don't we get started? Maybe you tell us a little more about your background, like what you do, how long you have been having lower back problem.
So I do work in, a desk, office type job, in digital advertising and marketing. So a lot of sitting at a computer, at times a lot of, Excel, a lot of, reporting numbers, a lot of cut, copy, paste, locked in. So that's always, kind of contributed to the general, I'd say, back pain you get from those types of jobs. I don't want to say I've had chronic, for many, many years, but definitely like, and I've seen others advertise, solutions, if you will, of uh, that I connected with that, do you get it a couple of times a year? And it would come and go. And yeah, I actually could relate to that and kind of their positioning. I'm guessing your positioning is that that isn't like good. Thinking, oh, it went away, that it's gone. It's just kind of part of the process until you fix it. You're going to continually be in and out of that type of pain until you do something different. But then, yes, more over the last year, there was just something different that happened. It was constant, and you know, just ever present and almost drive you a little bit crazy, right? And I wouldn't say I've had. I'm sure there's people with injuries, from accidents and stuff with crazy back pain. So I don't want to say I'm probably the worst, but it was enough to like really concern me, and that it made me think like, wow, like this can drive a person crazy. And I can only imagine somebody that actually really has a really bad injury or something, and you start to relate with how it drives people to use pills to mitigate it. I'm someone that's pretty natural. I'm like to remove toxins. I found myself grabbing an ibuprofen here and there, and I want to avoid taking that stuff as much as possible. But that just showed me like I was, just, and again, I'd take one. I know they say take two. I'm like, I don't need to. Let me just take one. But still, that sign that I was grabbing for them was like frustrating me. That it's like, no, there needs to be a change. And again, this one was just constant. It was different. Um, so yeah, I started looking for ways to correct it outside of the norm. And I took some other avenues. And then, I found my way to you, and it's been the most successful.
That's great, man. And what would you say your worst point before we work together, or your worst moment?
It was probably those times when it was just, yeah, I was like, I need to take an ibuprofen. I'm just going to go lie down. It was affecting daily lives. Like, I've told you before, I live 2 blocks from a beach, and like, going with my wife, and it's like, I can't sit, I can't stay on the ground long, like I can't sit down there, like, and like having to be like in like weird positions. So it's just that it was affecting everyday life like that. And I found myself just going to bed, to lay out. And then also knowing that laying down in bed isn't also good. Like you get different pains from being like, cramped up. So it was like this conundrum of like, I can't find relief, and that frustration of I can't sit on a couch. So just thinking like, is this life? Is this the way life is going to be? I'd say
Yeah.
that was it.
What about right now?
Right now, I mean, I'm feeling fantastic compared to where I was. I don't have that pain all the time. Um, in the rating systems, you've heard me say I was probably at like an 8 to 10, and I had gotten down to 2 out of 10, I'd say, I'm down at this like 1 out of 10. Whereas most most daily activities, I'm pretty good. But then there's certain things I do that it comes, um, and that's a little frustrating. But the saving grace is, as I've kind of noted to you before, is if I go and do some just regular, moving around and stuff, it kind of goes away on its own. So I'm down to that like 1 out of 10, I'd say, because there's just these little, little tweaks here and there. It has been good. Having, this time of year has been a little bit looser with, and I've been sitting at a desk less. Um, but even sitting at a desk, I haven't been like having incredible pain, but it of course will contribute more than not. So having some freedom there. I have had to take some long car trips, sometimes like 2 hour drives, which I'm not necessarily accustomed to. I don't like commute daily or have long. Um, and I want to say like, yeah, I think I had a little bit of, I normally would have been really scared of those things. I was well prepared for them. I want to say after 2 hours in a car, maybe I got out and I just got normal things of, hey, your body hasn't sat in a car for 2 hours. So yeah, likely there's some like a little bit of pains or aches or just being locked up. Um, and the first time I had to do it one day and hurt a little bit. And then the next day, it was almost like maybe I got some muscles around it all. I had to do it again the next day, 2 hours one way, 2 hours back. And I felt pretty good uh, at the end of that day. And I was just expecting not to. And again, that's those fears and triggers of the life before, of like everything hurts. Um, and another thing I brought up to you recently is I kind of have this couch that I think was contributing also almost worse than the sitting in an office chair, that I would avoid and lay down. Um, I have, even though it's still kind of an uncomfortable couch, it's a little more firm than I'm used to. I've been able to use it and sit there and not have like crazy pain. So I'm seeing the everyday life stuff change that I was saying was kind of low points. Like, nope, I'm not sitting there. I'm just going to go lay down in bed. What kind of life is that? So,
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And can you tell me a little more about what you've tried before, like chiro, physio, massage before?
sure. So the stuff, before, I know you don't necessarily think it's completely related, but I stopped working out last year the end of last year when I realized I had a hernia. I was doing a lot of, I was helping, I had to get my mom's house sold. I was moving stuff. And I got a hernia maybe about a little over a year ago. And that just stopped me dead. And I didn't really, I remember last year, like kind of counting my blessings. Like, I don't really have back pain. And then, this year was a different story. I had a lot of back pain. But I stopped working out because I couldn't lift heavy things with a hernia. It took some time with insurance, finding the right doctor, getting a surgery scheduled. So I went, maybe November-ish till April when I got the hernia surgery. And uh, I got the hernia surgery, then there's recovery. Don't lift anything. So I was very immobile for a while. And yeah, I think I just got a little bit weaker. But then when I started to come out of it, I wanted to, hey, let me start fixing everything, right? Um, and then it was around June, I had really just something changed. So things that I did is, I think I told you before, I was getting advertised a lot of things. I know I told you I know how I do marketing. I know how those algorithms on Instagram, work. And I was getting all of these, products and all. And I've seen the hip hook type thing, and I don't. I thought it was ridiculous how much they were charging for it. Then I saw the QL claw, which was educating me on that QL muscle, the quadrant, whatever. So I did purchase one of those things, because I like that it did 5 different muscles and the psoas and the, all the things that are, associated with it. And it was like, okay, that kind of makes sense. Loosen those things up. Maybe, I felt a little bit of relief, but it wasn't like really moving the needle. Um, Started to do things like Pilates, a lot more with like the bands, and thinking I needed to strengthen my lower back with like, is that kind of like the butt lift, using the bands left and right. And I felt like I was getting some strength there and maybe some relief, but it wasn't like, hey, this is it. I'm done. I'm out of the woods yet. And then I eventually, I checked with my insurance. I saw I had coverage for a chiropractor. I wouldn't have to pay crazy, out of pocket fees. So I went to a chiropractor, and it was interesting. I remember going, and it was that first after that first, he assessed me. What I did like about the chiropractor is I did have a specialist have me do an assessment. I was just guessing from the internet like what I had, but I did have an expert say, okay, do this with your leg, do that, kind of like our assessments, but their own way. So I had somebody focus in on and tell me, hey, I think you have, hey, I don't think it's a slip disc. I don't think you have sciatica. So I was able to at least get a professional telling me like, hey, these big things are out, but L4, L5, lumbar spine issue. So I felt good that I at least kind of honed in, and he did help me, start to create a plan. The things that surprised me about it after the first, session with him, he's like, you're going to feel sore. I was surprised how sore I was just from that. And I guess my research, I thought something was wrong, but research says it's kind of like a muscle, a massage. After a massage, when you feel a little sore. So I felt that. I mean, it was keeping me up at night. So I don't know if that was good, bad. I was like, hey, maybe this is just awakening. And then he had me going in, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. He's like, hey, it's going to be a little bit more intense at the beginning, and then we can taper off. But now that I've learned from you, he wasn't wrong in his assessment of me, because he was saying things like, I need to reintroduce movement into your hips, and now that makes sense. I didn't necessarily know that. I know a little bit more from watching your videos and working with you, but he did say those things. And then he said another thing that you've said is like, you've probably been like this for a long time, and I've seen your videos. It's like you're probably stuck for a long time. And so he was doing things where I was laying down, front down, and pushing the thing up, pushing it down, pushing the thing up. I don't know if you know that move. And then also just trying to kind of realign my hips. I felt some improvements here and there. Um, but what I don't know, what I felt was missing was that he didn't want me doing anything else. And I was like, don't I need to like kind of learn for myself? Shouldn't I be doing things in between? I suggested, like, should I be doing? He's like, oh, I guess that's a great idea. You should try that. I'm like, maybe, I don't know. I thought you would be telling me to do things. So it kind of felt passive, if you will. And then, I was still getting those ads, and I got yours, and, I followed you a little. I got to talk to you a little bit. And it took some time, right? Like, as the marketing process does, but for whatever reason, I saw the free trial thing. I was like, hey, what do I have to lose? And so I gave you a shot, and it kind of exemplified the difference I was looking for. I'm doing something. I'm not just laying on a machine that's moving me. Um, you have me doing stuff. It's less passive, right? I have to do it. I have to train my body. So yeah, a little bit of success with the chiropractor. But the what I felt with your I got near instant relief, and then further within, say, days to shorter weeks, when I was going to the chiropractor, uh, you know, maybe uh, between 1 and 2 months. And I had just randomly missed an appointment with him, and I kind of stayed with it. Like, I was just like, I don't know if I'm going to go back yet. And then I looked for something else, and yeah. And then once I felt the success with yours, it just felt a little bit more right that I'm doing something. I'm retraining my body, and I know he was retraining my body, but again, if the machine's doing it, I don't know if I necessarily my brain's going to fully pick that up.
Yeah, 100%. Now, what would you say the biggest difference between all the exercise we're trying to do and all the exercise you tried before?
Oh God, it's the minuscule nature of them, the simplicity of them, the not much movement, contradictory to everything you think. Like, no, I have to do Pilates and these big moves to strengthen, this muscle. So yeah, the real surprise and change was um, that's it, and almost needing to train yourself to do less, get your brain to do less, and you got more out of it. That was surprising, certainly for me.
Yeah, 100%. What about the breathing part? I know at first you're pretty surprised at the breathing part.
Yeah, and the breathing possibly was the most difficult part, right? And it's something I've always wanted to explore, and I kind of avoided. I don't know why, right? And I'm sure it's rampant, but
Yeah.
it's outside of thinking it was related to back pain, just learning how to breathe. I kind of knew it, but it's just avoiding like doing it. It's something so little. It's almost like meditating. I used to try meditating and I couldn't do it, because that silence in your brain almost was I wasn't ready for it. It may be going deep here, but then I had eventually gone into therapy and learned how to like respect like those thoughts and stuff. And then when I came out of therapy, I found myself able to meditate because I was okay with it. And I thought the same thing of breathing. Breathing, you got to build a base for everything, and I knew I probably wasn't. So this combines that, and I actually do. It is kind of a meditative, so it's two for one. It's breathing and meditating, and yeah, concentrating on that breathing into your chest. It was difficult. It's pretty surprising how difficult that was. I do. I'll have my earbuds in now. I put on like piano type music during the exercises, so it's kind of a two for one.
That's
But yeah, I
great.
do think breathing is improving. Seeing the connection to it all. Even just when the first wall sit, when you breathe in, when you're leaning forward a little bit, and like in the videos they talk about like that expansion of your rib cage, so subtle, but it's like you almost feel things, for a lack of a better term, like tearing away maybe old things that are fused you together. You almost feel it just like gently pulling everything apart.
Yeah, 100%. Now, so what would you say your mindset before joining the program? I know a lot of people, they may say, they try for a couple of days and they feel like, I don't feel like I'm doing anything, right? Like, so what was your mindset that has you decided to actually stay for the program and or choose a program in the first place?
The mindset, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, so what was your mindset before joining the program? Were you pretty skeptical or because I know you tried a lot of stuff before.
Yeah, skeptical because you feel like, again, when you get so many ads, you're like, who's telling the truth? And again, I was like, oh wait, this person says I have this person says I have that. So there's almost, it has nothing to do with you in particular. It's just like there's like information overload. um so it was just like, oh, I just think these people are just, again, I know how marketing goes, they're just trying to just get a couple of bucks out of me. um but seeing, I think just following and seeing videos and listening, you give good, some content to understand the science behind it. When I'm a very data driven person, I respect science, and when you give me a good reason and science backed by it, then I'm like, okay, this isn't nonsense, this isn't just someone trying to sell me a product, really. And genuine nature. You genuinely look like seems like you wanted to help people. So that also went a long way. So yeah, seeing things like, hey, your hip, when you show the hip, hey, it's locked like this. It needs to go like this. That stuff started to like, okay, that makes sense. That is what the chiropractor said. I'm stuck. It seems impossible to be stuck. But again, I know you're not just whistling Dixie and like that, you know a thing or two. So, um, okay. And then seeing these simple, like little exercises, like, all right, that's it. And then some curiosity and like, hey, I'll give it a little bit of time. But hey, my money is precious. If I feel like it's wasted, just kind of like with the chiropractor, um, I'm gonna give it a little bit of time. And hey, there's the free trial, but I was like, I'm gonna go beyond the free trial because I want to allow the process. Now, within the free trial, some instant relief, and then because I gave it a little bit, that allowed me to give it a little bit more time, and then you know, bigger jumps in relief started to happen. So that's how the mindset kept me going, and the simplicity of them does help because if you're doing big, huge, excruciating things, people might want to just be like, oh, this is too much, and I want to move on. I don't want to do it, but yeah, the simple nature of them does help get you through.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Now, I think the last question, I guess, for somebody who's watching or listening to this video right now, they're on the fence of joining the program. What do you want to say to those people who are looking for a leg up?
I would say you just have to give it a shot. You have to trust somewhere. I was in that position, and I decided, um, and I'm guessing somebody making that decision has really bad back pain, and you're in those moments of, I would give anything to have this go away right now. Well, why not give it 2 weeks and a little bit of effort to try it? And if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. But if you do it right, it does seem like the numbers are on your side that it will at least get you some relief. And hey, just to pick and choose, if you get to 50%, that's improvement. And then if you're at 50%, why would you stop? Just keep going. So there's a little bit of science, I think, but hope and a little bit of faith that will come into it. And yeah, I mean, just try it because I'm happy that I did. If I didn't do it, I don't know if I'd be sitting as feeling as good as I do.
That's awesome, and I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
All right, cool, perfect, man. Appreciate you a lot. Again,
Yeah,
like I
no, I appreciate you.
yeah, really appreciate for being here.
Thank you.
Uh,